Hello everyone. So, just a small introduction before we actually go to the guide. First of all, I want to mention that this is one of the biggest projects I've ever made on this channel. It took me almost 6 months to get to this point where I can actually say, okay, I have all done, I have all recorded, I can release it. That is mainly because a lot of changes were done to DVD recently, and there will also be some upcoming changes quite soon, but the actual, or the most part of the guide should be still applicable to all the future changes, except they rework Trickster at some point. So, that being said, as there is a lot of work into this guide, I'd really appreciate if you can like it, comment on it, share it. I'd really appreciate it because it was a lot of work and a lot of effort to put all of that together. There's also two things I want to mention. First of all, thanks a lot to the Dexter man, aka Hexadecimal. He helped me a lot on the staged recordings for this guide. You will see them inserted in the guide here and there. It makes it easier to show that there's a difference in certain things, and I really appreciate that effort. Because it was not really a pain, but it took some time to get all these recordings done properly, and I messed up maybe at some point. And second, I want to thank everybody who joined the streams when we were trying stuff on Trickster and figured out how we maybe can use add-ons in a different way, where a lot of people put some input to my research, and I want to thank for that as well. So if you want to join our streams, feel free to do as well. You're very welcome, but please share and like and comment on this guide. That being said, enjoy the guide, enjoy the Trickster, and I'll see you around. Hello everyone, welcome to this guide. It's my very first own one, and I'm sorry for my bad English if it is terrible in pronunciation or building of sentences at some point, because it's not my first language, and I do this guide in 2 languages, so I just did the German version, now I do the English version, so I'm very sorry if I mess up on stuff and have to cut it into pieces afterwards, because, well, that's me. So welcome to this Trickster guide. My name is Absidus, and I'm playing Trickster for a very long time now, and I really enjoy it and want to create a guide for guys and girls out there, or different persons, whatever you identify as, to maybe give you an insight as a beginner on Trickster and maybe show you a different playstyle if you already play Trickster, that you can maybe pick up and learn and adapt, and you know, it's all about consuming and adapting, and yeah, you get the idea. So why do I do this? When I picked up Trickster, when I started playing DVD, it was kind of tricky to get into all that stuff, because Trickster is a very unpopular killer at some point, and most of the guides were really unstructured and not really helpful. They just played a game, and yeah, they showed footage, but it was at the same time kind of weird, because, you know, it's super tricky to actually be able to have a structured guide and just play the game like most people do. And I'm also not on the same opinion as most of these people, so I just want to create my own guide, want to help people that are beginners to actually learn how to play Trickster, understand his ability, understand his add-ons, understand what builds could and could not work. And my second important part of this guide is that it should be quote-unquote timeless. So unlike most other guides that are structured around certain builds, I want to show you what is actually behind the ability, behind the add-ons, and then you can figure stuff out on your own on that information. And also I will show you some builds in the end, but I want to show you the timeless part first, and then explain some perks and some builds to you, how they could work. If you want to see more gameplay material of Trickster, please feel free to check out my streams or my other YouTube videos. I make plenty of these. Just have a look, and if you learn something, maybe let me know in the comments or leave a like, or both, would prefer that. So yeah, let's have a look at the guide itself first. This guide will be split into 4 parts. we start on the basics as Trickster. So what is it about him that is different to other killers? What is specially about him? We have a look at his ability, we have a look at his add-ons, and last but not least we have a look at some builds. But as mentioned, these builds are like valid for a certain amount of time because behavior is changing a lot of the perks recently. And that's also a reason why this guide comes so late. Because I started this perk actually half a year ago, but behavior decided to change a lot of perks. And therefore this took a while. So let's have a look at the basics. The Trickster has his power, that is Showstopper, not much of a surprise here. And first of all, before we start on looking into the exact numbers and details and all that shit, I want to give you an advice. You don't have to take it, I just want this as a suggestion to you, but if you play on console or if you play on PC with gamepad, please not play Trickster. It will hurt you more than it will hurt the survivors, trust me. I tried it, I saw some people playing him on console. There are just some kinds of trick shots you can't do on gamepad on him, and it limits you a lot in the tricky parts that you can perform on mouse and keyboard that you can't on gamepad. So if you actually want to play him, feel free to do so, I won't stop you. If you want to play Trickster because you want to have as many forecasts as possible, you want to be as successful as possible, maybe gamepad is not for everybody. It's definitely not for me, I prefer mouse and keyboard by far. That warning ahead, let's go to his numbers and stats. So we start on his base attributes. He has a movement speed of 4.4 meters per second. That is roughly about 110% movement speed. Survivors run on 100% movement speed. Most killers run at 4.6 meters, so 115%. So Trickster is not the fastest killer by far. 4.4 meters is still decent though. His terror radius is 24 meters. Normal killers have 32. And his height, body height, is average. Means you can see above grass on maps usually. Compare this to Nemesis, who is tall. As mentioned, normal terror radius 32 meters, 4.6 movement speed. Or for example Onryu, which is short. Onryu, for example, as an example for short killers, is like on Dead Dog Saloon or Backwater Swamp you can't see over grass. It's basically impossible to spot survivors on long distances because the grass is in your face. So on Trickster you are already kinda on a decent way to actually find your survivors. His power is Showstopper, we go into that in detail in the ability section, but basically it allows you to throw knives at survivors. And his base perks are Starstruck, Crowd Control and Nowhere Out. I'm just back to the basics for 1 second. I cut this in between later on. I forgot something about the terror radius. You have a terror radius of 24 meters, but you have also a lullaby. That's basically not a heartbeat from the normal terror radius, but it's like a small song or melody just playing in the survivor's ears. And that range on Trickster is 40 meters, so survivors can hear you far before the terror radius. So please don't try undetectable things on Trickster because the lullaby can't be muffled or muted. Alright, let's move to the power. Alright, the Showstopper. The Showstopper is the name of the whole power of Trickster. Basically it allows you to carry 44 blades with you, and as long as you hold the power button you wind up your knives and you can throw them. There are a few things connected to that. As soon as you start throwing knives and hitting survivors, on the survivor that you're actually hitting on, the laceration meter will rise. What does it do? If you hit 5 times it becomes full and the 6th shot will basically hurt him by 1 state. Meaning a healthy one will go into injured or an injured one will go into dying state. Then there is the main event. That's basically his secret super ultimate hero power, because he's a K-pop anime star, as you may be seen in the cinematics. So basically what the main event does is, if you have hit 30 blades on survivors, meaning if all hit perfectly fine, you down 2 survivors and injured 1, or you injured 5 survivors, you hit 30 blades. Main event will be available for a short time. When you activate main event, like a normal throw, you will slow down in your movement speed from 110% to 96.5, 6? I can't remember for sure. But it's a lot slower than survivors, so you are definitely slower while throwing blades. And you have an unlimited amount of blades to throw during this event, and you're throwing them super fast, and you can literally shred through survivors. So as a beginner, it's not really super difficult to or super important to pay attention to this, but if you're getting better at Trickster and you want to play him more efficiently, at some point you need to learn to manage when to hit the 30th blade to get the best value out of it. It's super tricky in the beginning, but at some point you just start to do it on your own without even thinking about it, because you want to down 2 or more survivors at best with one main event. There are 2 more things that are important for the Showstopper. The first one is, as mentioned already, the movement speed. If you're throwing knives, normally you are slower. If you are in the main event, you are still slower than normal, but not as slow as you would be usually. You're somewhere in between. And the second part is, the more knives you throw, the faster you throw them. So if you throw the first blade, you are at a multiplication value of 1. If you have thrown 4 blades, no matter if you hit them or not, you will increase to 1.13. And if you hit if you throw 8 blades, sorry, you will go up to 1.3. So you start to throw knives a lot faster the longer you throw them without break. Means the 44 blades are gone quite fast. But there are some add-ons to help you on this, and that we will see in the next section we are looking in right now. So, as we understand the power now, we go into the add-ons. I'll go through it by color. At some point I will combine 4 add-ons for a short introduction to them, because it's important to understand the difference between them. But for now, let's just start. Trick Pouch. Trick Pouch is basically an add-on you can not do any harm with. If you pick it. You can play it all the time you want. It's basically one of the pick it whenever you're funny add-ons, because it gives you 4 additional blades. 4 additional blades means you can carry 48 instead of 44 blades. You also start with 48 blades. What's the big difference, you might ask? Having 4 more blades will save you 1 or 2 reloads during the game. Means you can chase a survivor for longer, maybe because you have enough blades to actually injure or down them, and that saves you a lot of time, because one of the downsides of Showstopper is that you need to go to reload these blades at lockers. And with Trick Pouch, saving 1 or 2 of these cycles, depending on how long the game is, will just save you a lot of time, and maybe down 1 or 2 survivors more than you would have without. So it's definitely an add-on worth playing. On the other hand, we have Memento Blades. Please don't pick it. Ever. Memento Blades is basically making your power worse. Instead of 6 hits to injure or 12 hits to down a survivor, you need 7 to injure and 14 to down. Potential up point is getting additional blood points for the Showstopper events. And to be frank with you, you want to play the blades as much as you can, and not hitting people with your melee attack with your baseball bat. So basically playing this add-on makes you worse, not better. It's one of the meme add-ons a lot of killers have. Not everybody has one, but a lot of killers have one. It's similar to the Trapper's Padded Jaws. It's the same effect. It makes your killer worse, but it gives you more blood points for trapping events. There's actually one good meme add-on, that is the Prayer Tablet Fragment for Plague. That basically allows you to play a different play style. So as terrible as it is that it takes a part of your power away, it gives you a different option, a different play style to play with from the very beginning, which the Padded Jaws or the Memento Blades, for example, doesn't. Or don't. So back to the Trickster. The 100% bonus blood points for Showstopper events do not go on top of your normal blood points for Showstopper events. So in a normal game, without this add-on, you reach 100% of Showstopper's core events all the time. So with the Memento Blades you just reach them faster, which basically doesn't give you a benefit. There were only 2 ways to increase your total blood points in the game. That were offerings that allow you to multiply certain categories or all blood points by 25, 50, 75 or 100%. And there were perks. The perks have been removed by now. On Killer side it was barbecue and chili. That has the effect to show the aura of survivors when you hook a survivor and give you blood points per stack. That blood points per stack mechanic was removed. And on survivor side it was We Are Gonna Live Forever. That was also reworked a few months ago. So the only way to increase your total blood points is offerings. And sometimes certain events. Like we had the Haunted by Daylight event recently, or the Moonlight Groove, or whatever. So there are certain events that can increase it, but not add-ons, not other perks. There's just no way to increase your blood points in total. So please don't touch these. Killing Pod Cords, or Chords. I guess it's pronounced cords. I would pronounce it cords. It increases the movement speed while throwing blades by 1%, which is very decent. This one should be base kit, to be honest, and replaced with a different add-on in my opinion, because it's a very decent add-on. You run on 97% instead of 96.5, so 97.5 instead of 96.5. It's very, very good for Trickster. Still not the best, but hey, it also applies on the main event, by the way. So on main event you're a little bit slower than on normal knife throwing, but it's still not the normal speed, so it's still decent. And you can combine it with the yellow one, but I'm going up to that in a second. But before that, I will tackle the 4 add-ons I wanted to combine. That's Inferno Wires increases the duration of main event by 25%. Tequila Moonrock increases the duration of main events by 50%. Lucky Blades increases the duration of main events by 0.2 seconds for each blade hit while it's active. And Waiting for You Watch increases the duration of main event by 0.3 seconds for each blade while it's active. These 4 add-ons are for main event duration, and these 4 are the only ones that actually affect the main event directly. I want to show you a graphic about this, because as you can see, this is a brown one. It looks probably terrible because it's brown. This is a yellow one. It's not as bad as a brown one probably. This is also yellow, so it's maybe the same as the Moonrock, Tequila Moonrock. And this is a green, so it must be the best of these 4, right? Wrong. Let me show you a graphic. In this graphic you can see the 4 add-ons and the base main event. The base main event is the blue line, then you have the Lucky Blades, you have Inferno Wires, you have Tequila Moonrock here, and Waiting for You Watch here. The colors are not the same as the add-ons because it's just too stupid, and we have 2 yellow ones, but it does the trick. Massacre Getroffen means knife set. I made this in German first, so I'm sorry for this. So I made this up for 48 knives. Because in best case on main event you can hit 48 knives to down all 4 survivors. So the base duration of main event is 30 seconds. So this is the duration. Means 30 seconds on main event on base. So this is the absolute minimum you can get of a main event at best on duration. If you play Inferno Wires, you have 37.5 flat. You would need to hit, with the yellow Lucky Blades add-on, 38 knives. So you need more than 2 survivors downed, almost 3, to get more value out of Lucky Blades compared to Inferno Wires. This is basically never ever going to happen on a regular basis. Tequila Moonrock by 50% gives you 45%. There you still would need to hit around 30 blades to actually get the Waiting for You Watch to somewhat decent levels. So if you want to play on main event, no matter if you just want to have some good value, or if you want to play on getting 4 less acceleration meters for the daily quest, please always pick Inferno Wires or Tequila Moonrock. Never ever touch the Lucky Blades or the Waiting for You Watch. It's so much worse to play these 2 add-ons compared to the other ones. And if you might say now, yeah, but maybe it counts up to the second main event or to the third or whatnot. No, it doesn't. Try it and test it for you. It's just not worth it. If you really want to have a really long main event with 45 seconds, pick Tequila Moonrock. If you say this is not enough for me, I want 52.5 seconds, play Tequila Moonrock and Inferno Wires. Don't touch Lucky Plates or Waiting for Your Watch, please. Thank you very much for attending my TED Talk. Alright, the next add-on is the on-target single. Increases the time before the laceration meter starts decaying by 2 seconds. That's fine, it's not bad, it's not really good, but it's still decent. You have more time to chase survivors. As you have a very low movement speed and base effect, it's worth it. You can use it, it's not bad. It's just also not really good. In some situations it might be amazing, but yeah, it's up to the actual use. G-Wounds Autograph. This is huge. Let me explain. From the yellow ones, this is the second best add-on. The best one we're still missing, the Caged Hot Shoes. This means if you throw your blades, the multiplicator or multiplication will be increased faster. So instead of 4 and 8 knives to reach 1.13 and 1.3 multiplicator for blade knife throws, you reach them at 3 and 6. This is freaking huge. If you don't want to play on main event, this is definitely something you can play every single game. But the best add-on on the yellow part are the Caged Hot Shoes. Increases the moving speed while throwing blades by 2.5%. Kind reminder, usually you are 96.5%. So if you have 1% and 2.5%, you are 100%. Again. So if you combine Caged Hot Shoes and Killing Part Cords, you are on the same movement speed as survivors are, which makes chases a lot more convenient for you. Of course, you only have 44 blades and you can't play the Trick Pouch or the Bloody Boa, and you also don't have any other things on you, but if you're struggling in chases, these two add-ons can take a lot of pressure off you. Next one, we have the Ripper Brace. The Ripper Brace is basically the same as the on-target single, but it increases the time before the laceration meter decreases by 3 seconds instead of 2. Again, decent add-on, can't say anything against it. It's not super good, but it's good, so play it when you want to play it. Then we have the Melodious Murder. I'm honestly considering this one of the best add-ons Trickster has. For 2 reasons. First of all, increased reload speed at lockers is huge, because the normal reload animation is super slow. Second, you can combine this with Iron Maiden. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Iron Maiden, which means you can open lockers at 70.5 speed if nobody is in there. If somebody's in there, you are still 50% faster than normal because of Iron Maiden. For me personally, Iron Maiden is one of the most important perks for ranged killers on Huntress and Trickster especially. Therefore, yeah, Melodious Murder is huge. If you don't know what to play, play this one. Fist Spin Soda. It's basically the autograph, but reduces the number by 2. So instead of 4 and 8, you get the stacks on 2 and 4. Amazing add-on. You can shred through health states immediately. It's huge. Give it a try, it will change your opinion on Trickster definitely to the better. Bloody Boa is the bigger Trick Pouch, 8 blades instead of 4. So you have 52 instead of 44 blades. Very solid add-on. It definitely saves you reloading once, maybe even twice. Maybe even a lot more, depending on your playstyle. Saves you a lot of time therefore, so please give it a try. It's a very good add-on. Trick Blades. Trick Blades are very situational. They allow you to throw blades that ricochet twice off environment. No matter if it's a tree, a wall, the ground itself also counts. So you can also hit the ground to throw blades at survivors. And if you get used to that, it's a kind of different playstyle on Trickster. But it enables you to do things you couldn't usually do. And this is huge. You can surprise survivors and scare the shit out of them. I'm not gonna lie, it's huge. But you have to learn to use them, because the ricochet angle is kind of weird sometimes. Ricochet hit, grant bonus blood points, again, similar as Memento blades you can't get above a certain amount, but still this is definitely worth it. Edge of Revival album. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to start to do this guide, because this is painful to watch on the other guides. A lot of Trickster guides show this add-on as valuable and amazing and huge, and well, we have to agree to disagree on this one, because for a beginner this add-on is huge. For a advanced player or even a pro, not so much. Let me explain. Blade Shatter when hitting the environment, dealing 50% less radiation damage to near survivors. Means if you are not able to hit your blades, but you miss them by only a short margin of range, you still will do 50% to the laceration meter compared to a normal blade. So if you would miss all your blades and hit it close to a survivor, it will take 12 blades instead of 6 to injure a survivor, and 24 blades instead of 12 to down a survivor. This is too much. This is by far too much. I don't want to insult any beginners on Trickster, because hitting blades in the beginning is super difficult. Also because of the recoil that's happening. But learn to aim. I'm sorry. If you're not sure, if you go on long distance shots, maybe only shoot one blade at a time. You can tap them, you don't need to throw them all at once. But it's like, learning to aim gives you much more value than playing this add-on all the time, especially because it's a purple one and you don't have it all the time. Next are diamond cufflinks. Diamond cufflinks are decent. It's not something I would play every single game, but it's still okayish. It basically allows you to see the survivor's auras for 6 seconds when their laceration meter is 1 blade away from maximum. Means if somebody tries mind games on you, you can basically see the aura for 6 seconds and maybe plan ahead and avoid that mind game. Can be helpful. I got some value out of this during my games. Again, nothing I will play every game, but it's still kinda decent. No objections on this one. Cut through usingly. Allows you to pierce survivors, hitting the survivor behind one. Subsequent survivors hit by the same blade receive 50% less duration. So it's basically the same as Edge of Revival. But the benefit here is one survivor will hit 100% and the other one will be hit by 50%. So you get a lot more value out of this if you hit 2 survivors than if you would hit 2 survivors on this, because both would hit 50%. This one would make a total of 150%. Also, this is good if survivors go for protection hits, which will happen, especially if survivors getting better. And on this one, I got a lot of value already myself on chasing survivors that are trying to take protection hits, or even if they are healing each other, you can pierce through them already if you are in the right angle and basically down 2 survivors quite fast. This is especially ugly if you go for the main event. Now we go for the add-on that I have the most problems with on Trickster, that's the iridescent photo card. The iridescent photo card is on paper kinda decent add-on, and as it's iridescent you would assume it's kind of valuable. If a survivor is 2 or less blades away from the maximum laceration meter, they are inflicted with exposed. From all 4 ranged killers, which all have an exposed add-on, a lethal add-on on iridescent level, this is the worst by far. Let me explain. Most ranged killers have 4.4 meter per second movement speed. That's already kind of slow. But let's compare this to the other add-ons first. Maybe you will figure it out yourself as well. Let's go for the Huntress first. The lethal add-on of Huntress is the iridescent head. It makes your headshots to a set amount of 1. You have only 1 headshot with you, but if you hit somebody with that headshot, he will be downed immediately. From all ranged lethal add-ons, this is probably the best. You only have 1 shot, but if you hit it, you have no follow-up, you have not any risk of losing something anymore. That survivor is downed, you can go there, pick him up, hook him, except he got a decisive strike or similar stuff. But basically, 1 shot, 1 hit, it's done. Super nice, super straightforward, very good add-on. You have the Death Slinger. Iridescent coin. If you spear a survivor from 12 meters, so if you shoot a survivor from 12 meters afar, they get exposed, as long as they are speared. And that's okayish. It's at least worth playing it, because as long as you're speared a survivor, you can try to reel it in and you can try to get that hit on him. And you need to get to that survivor anyways. That's the main reason of your ability. Hit a survivor, reel him in, hit him with your basic attack. If you combine this with, for example, the prison chain, where survivors take 10% longer to break free, it's huge. You basically can't miss that, except there's a huge object between you and the survivor, so you can't reel him next to you. But this add-on is definitely worth it. Then you have the artist. First of all, the artist has a movement speed of 4.6, which is a huge difference already. Second, the iridescent Garden of Rot, sorry. Iridescent Feather is completely different. Garden of Rot. When a survivor completes the repel action, not cleansing the crows in locker, but completes the repel action, which happens in chase more than often, at least to me, they get affected by the exposed effect by 4 seconds. That's enough to chase him down, especially because you're on 115% movement speed, 4.6, remember. And you can chase survivors down, especially because you can place crows before and you can shoot them afterwards, and you have the time to actually chase up survivors during that time. You can plan on this. There's not a 100% guarantee you hit this, but at least there's a chance. On Trickster, this add-on is basically like, you need to at least throw 4 blades, better 5, so it won't decay that fast again. You need to chase it. And as long as you are not playing around a certain loop that you are 100% sure this will work, you won't get any value out of this add-on. You can't plan it like you can do on the artist. You have no guaranteed hit or value out of it like on Slinger or Huntress if you hit it. It's actually faster to throw the additional 2 blades instead of chasing him and hitting him with the M1 button. If you throw blades already, go for the other 2 blades, injure him, and then go for the other 6 blades and down him. It's a lot faster and a lot safer, and it saves you a lot of headache compared to this add-on. And then we have the Death Throws compilation. When the main event ends, the Trickster's blades are replenished. It's a decent add-on. I don't know why it's iridescent. I can see it because it's really powerful. It saves you 1 reload cycle. Means you don't need to go to a locker. On some maps like Coldwind Farm, this can be huge. On other maps where you have lockers everywhere, like Silent Hill, or maybe also Gideon Pellet Factory, Meat Plant, sorry. You can basically ignore it because you can reload basically everywhere. So yeah, it's kinda decent, but it's also not really a must or have to play. So that sums up to the following tier list in my opinion. So as you can see, we have on the Don't Touch Ever list, we have the Memento Blades, the Iridescent Photo Card, the Lucky Blade and the Waiting For You watch, because please don't touch them. There are a lot better alternatives to it. If you want to give them a try, go ahead obviously, but I wouldn't recommend to play them. We have a lot of situational add-ons that can be really nice, but it depends on you, your playstyle, your experience. We have some good add-ons that you can play without hesitation, and we have some god add-ons that, in my opinion, are the strongest on him. Fight me on this, I'm open for a discussion in the comments. That being said, that's the part of the basically hopefully timeless part, and we go now to the time limited part where I explain some builds that I'm playing currently, and maybe you can find something that is interesting to you and you want to try on Trickster. The first build I want to show you is my standard build. I play this a lot on Trickster. If you watch me at stream or YouTube videos, this is the build you will see me running mostly at the moment. I usually use a certain grid of perks on my killers. That is 1, an intel perk, 2, a gen regression perk, 3, a map related perk, means something that affects the map or objects in the map, and 4, a random perk. On Trickster and Huntress it's mostly Iron Maiden, but you can fill that slot usually with whatever you want. So for this one we have Darkness Revealed is a good intel perk. You can see the auras of survivors around lockers for for 5 seconds. It has a 30-second cooldown. Compared with the combined with the fact that the Trickster need to go to lockers anyway and open them to reload. This is huge because it's basically not at any price because you already need to go there anyways. And unlike barbecue or other survivor or hook related perks for Intel, you can basically call it off at any time you need. The Gen Regression perk in this build is Call of Brian. Basically does what the old Hex Ruin did. Lets a gen regress for 200%. This is limited to 60 seconds, but in addition you also get a noise when people do a good skill check on a generator. Not a perfect one, but a good one, or a great one. So a good one, not a great one. But yeah, good perk. You can have a lot of pressure on survivors like this, so please use it whenever you can. In my opinion at least, I'm a huge fan of it. Map related, on Trickster I use No Way Out, which I use on almost every other killer as well by now, because it's kind of a signature perk for me right now. I love to play No Way Out because you join the VIP room and there's no way out anymore. I like this description, it's huge. So base value is 12 seconds, so even if you mess up the whole game, you have 12 additional seconds in the end game as soon as the exit gates are powered and a survivor tries to open them, the gates are blocked for 12 seconds. If you hooked each survivor once, you gain 4 times 12 seconds, so for each unique hook you get 12 seconds, up to a minute in total, because you have 12 base seconds plus 4 times 12, enough math for today. So you have up to a minute of extra time. This is especially huge on endgame phases, because let's say you have one survivor left and they try to escape. You close the hatch and they wait for the very last minute of the endgame timer to open the gate to hide from you. No Way Out activates and they can't escape because the timer is longer than the endgame timer. There's not even a chance to open the gates, and this happens so often to me on all kinds of killers. It's a very amazing perk. It's very underestimated, especially on low and mid MMR, where I am as well probably. Give it a try, it's a huge perk. Last one is Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden lets you open lockers 50% faster, as I explained in the add-on part already. And survivors who exit lockers, because they got in at some point, are affected by the exposed status effect for 30 seconds, and the most important part is they scream and reveal their locations for 4 seconds. Meaning, if a survivor close to you exits a locker, and you have nothing else to do right now, it's kind of rare but it happens, you can go there, hit him with M1 because he is exposed for 30 seconds, and you can down him immediately, or you at least know where people were hiding in lockers and move there if you don't know where other survivors are at the moment. Overall, this build is more for late game than for early game, so you need to build pressure over the game, maybe kill one survivor during the game, and then everything else happens as soon as the last generator is repaired. They try to escape, No Way Out blocks them, they panic, you kill them. This is basically how this build is played most of the time. But there are also plenty of games where I didn't even reach the last generator and so I was just died before that. The next build is basically the exact opposite. An early game build. Corrupt Intervention. The 3 generators furthest from your position are blocked at the beginning of the game for 120 seconds, or if you're down as a survivor. Injuring is fine, not downing, then they are unlocked again. It gives you a lot of time in the beginning to orientate yourself, to figure out where the generators are, to figure out where the survivors are, especially combined with Lethal Pursuer. We'll go to that in a second. And this gives you a lot of information in the beginning of the game, because usually survivors spawn at the generators furthest away from you, so please make use of that in the early game. And maybe not down survivors immediately, but injure all 4 of them. There are also fancy other perks you can combine that with, but in this build it's all about early information and hooking survivors as soon as possible, so you might never see that 2 minutes expire and you down survivors earlier. Combine that with Lethal Pursuer. At the beginning of the trial you see these auras of all survivors for 9 seconds. The only way to avoid this would be the survivor perk Distortion. It's a pain in the ass if they have that, but then you only see 3 auras, so you notice immediately what's going on. And it also extends the aura shown of other survivor perks by 2 seconds. In this build it doesn't really do anything after the additional after the first 9 seconds, but on other builds or other combinations it's super helpful if you combine that with Floods of Rage, for example, or with Barbecue and Chili, or with Darkness Revealed. Basically any other perk that lets you see survivors' auras. Discordance. Discordance is a bit weird of a perk because it has a very weird description. Any generator within a range of 128 meters. Super weird, because 128 meters is basically the whole map, except for 2. That is the Red Forest biome. Means Mother's Dwelling and Temple of Purgation. On these 2 maps you can actually sometimes not see the furthest generator on this perk, if you are standing in one corner and the other generator is on the other side of the map. This is very rare. If you're standing in the middle of the map you still see everything, so it's like just a weird description, so it's not exactly global, but technically it is. If 2 or more survivors are working in one gen, this generator will be marked yellow to you, so you know there are 2 or more survivors. This perk works basically all the time, it has no cooldown, so basically you can use that all the time to make pressure on groups of survivors, which is huge, especially if you can maintain your main event for moments like this. And the last perk in this build is Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. That's basically the gen regression perk in this one. 4 hooks will be marked white. These are Scourge Hooks. Scourge Hooks have certain abilities depending on what perks you play. Pain Resonance means that if you hook a survivor on a white hook, the generator with the most progress explodes and loses 15% progress. This perk was even strong in the past, no matter to discuss this now, but this is one of the reasons why I have it in this build. The regress of 15% is still huge because it loses 15 seconds of work on a generator. Anyway, it's huge, use it. It does a lot of damage to survivors. If they are working on the gen, they're also screaming. You will not see an indication of that, but you will hear them. Not exactly, they will not reveal their location, but you can hear somebody screaming, so you know somebody was working on that gen, so you should go there ASAP or figure out where that gen is. But yeah, it helps you a lot on maintaining global pressure, which is one of the biggest weaknesses of Trickster. And the last build that I prepared here right now, then I have to change one of them, is the general average just have fun build. Spice from the Shadows is a great intel perk. It's free, you can use it in every killer from the beginning. It's nothing you have to pay for like most other perks I just showed you. Spice from the Shadows is allowing you to see survivors that scare crows. Not that are scarecrows, but that scare crows away. In a 36 meter range with 5 seconds cooldown. So basically if a survivor is moving around you, you can figure it out on that perk. The low cooldown makes it basically possible to track every person down. The only problem you can have on this is if 2 or more survivors are around you, then sometimes it can get confusing. Or the other problem can be on a very few maps that have 2 floors, 2 levels, like Silent Hill or RPD or the old Hawkins Underground lab. Then these crows can sometimes be irritating because it looks like it's on the other floor, but actually it's on your floor, and on these maps you have to be a little bit careful, but overall it's a great intel perk. So if you don't want to spend money for Legion to get Discordance or Dredge for Darkness Revealed, Spice from the Shadows is a great perk for the beginning. Starstruck, one of the Trickster perks. If you carry a survivor, every other survivor in a terror radius will get the exposed status effect. As long as they are in your terror radius and you carry a survivor, they are exposed. If they leave the terror radius or you hook the survivor, the effect will still linger for 30 additional seconds. Meaning you have a lot of time to chase them. But in this build, it's meant to be combined with the next perk. Just one information that is important about Starstruck, it has a cooldown of 60 seconds. So as soon as you hook the survivor, the cooldown will go down. If that cooldown meets exactly half, because it starts the cooldown on the top, so it goes down. If it exactly meets half, Starstruck is deactivated. That's a super easy way to see if the perk is still active or not. But combine that with the next perk, Mad Grid. Mad Grid is also similar to Discordance Allegiance perk, and Mad Grid allows you to block the wiggle progress for the survivor you're carrying for 4 seconds if you hit a survivor with a basic attack. Don't hit the air or whip around nothing, because that actually doesn't slow down the survivor. Only if you hit a basic attack, the survivor's wiggle timer will be stopped for 4 seconds. Meaning, if somebody tries to block you, even though they are exposed through Starstruck, you can hit them, they go to the ground, and they can't block you anymore. And you don't lose anything, because the hit that takes you like 3.5 or 3 seconds is now stopped. So you actually get additional time for carrying the survivor, because the 4 seconds of block are basically saving you that hit. It's a huge deal on beginners especially, because they don't understand Starstruck and Mad Grid in that combination. So if you're a beginner and you just picked up Trickster, this can be literally destroying survivors. I actually had on Mad Grid only a very nice game on Hack recently. I maybe just put that scene in here. You can destroy survivors on this. It's huge. And Kurchuk Pain Resonance you already know about. It just sums up a nice, just have fun build on Trickster. Alright, the last build I will show you today is a basically quote-unquote free-to-play build. All these perks are not locked behind other killers, so you can only buy the Trickster or the Trickster DLC and play this build. Spies from the Shadows I just explained in the build before. No Way Out you know from the first build. And then we have two new perks. The first one is No One Escapes Death. This is basically similar to Starstruck before, a perk that applies the exposed effect, but this time it's not when you carry a survivor, but when the exit gates are powered. So this is an endgame perk that matches perfectly fine with No Way Out. In addition to the exposed effect, as long as this hex totem is active, your movement speed is increased by 4%, so you're at 114% movement speed, meaning you are almost as fast as a normal killer. If you play this build and you get to the situation where the exit gates are powered, please don't use your knives. You only want to chase survivors and hit them with your M1 because you can down them immediately. If the totem gets destroyed, because the hex will be revealed to the survivor at some point, if they are in the range of 4 to 24 meters, as you can read in the description, they can destroy the totem if they can find it, and then you need to go back to your knife strategy. On the Noed totem, No One Escapes Death, short Noed, you want to play on normal baseball bat hits. Allows you to wrap up a game quite fast, even if they had a very good game so far, you can turn it around. If the survivors are getting better, Noed loses some of its value, but it's still a very decent perk. You can still play it. If you don't want to play Noed for some reason, you can also replace that with Starstruck, for example, as we've seen before, or Iron Maiden, or even Unrelenting. I will explain Unrelenting really quick because it's not in this build. Unrelenting allows you to use your M1 hits more often if you miss them, because it reduces the cooldown by 30%. Sounds not much, but it's actually saving you like 1 second or so. It's kinda okay-ish. It's nothing I would recommend as a main perk, but if you don't want to play Noed because you lose the totems too fast in your games or whatnot, you can definitely replace Noed with Unrelenting. And the last perk I want to introduce you in this guide is Jolt. Jolt, similar to Noed and Starstruck, relies on your M1 attack, on your base attack, on your baseball bat. If you down a survivor with your baseball bat, you cause all generators in a 32 meter radius to explode and lose 8% of their progress, which is huge, because on small maps you can hit like 3 or 4 generators at once. Especially on small maps with 2 floors like Silent Hill or Resident Evil again, you can cause a lot of damage to the survivor's progress. If you combine that with other perks like Deadman Switch, that's a Death Slinger perk, you can even block the generators for them, because on the explosion survivors will stop touching the generator for a little bit. That means Deadman Switch would trigger. I can also explain that perk real quick so you know what I'm talking about. Deadman Switch allows you to block a generator for 30 seconds if a survivor doesn't touch a generator once the survivor is hooked. So if you hook a survivor and you can down another one because you try to save them, you can easily block generators, which is a huge deal for many killers, because slowing down people is always huge. But this is not in this build, because I would recommend this build as a free-to-play build, because this is also a Death Slinger perk, so you need to have the other killer. Of the shown 4 builds, you can combine the perks as much as you want, obviously. You can, if you have the Dredge, you can replace Spice from the Shadows with, for example, Darkness Revealed. If you don't want to play Know It, but you want the Exposed effect, you can play Iron Maiden or Starstruck, doesn't really matter. You can mix them up as much as you want, it's completely up to you. You can also combine it with add-ons, as mentioned, so you have like 75% reload speed on lockers. You can use it with Bloody Boa, for example. But yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me in the comment section or via Twitter DMs, they are open. If Twitter is still not destroyed by Elon Musk by now, I'm not sure. This is actually something I didn't mention in the German part because it was recorded before Musk bought Twitter. You can also jump in my stream. I usually stream Tuesday to Saturday evening. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday on Twitch and Thursday on YouTube. Feel free to jump in, ask me questions. I usually try to respond as fast as possible. Until then, thank you much for watching. I hope you have fun playing the Trickster. And I'm looking forward to see you in the trials, and please don't get hooked.